that are watching,
to
our friends at Eutelsat headquarters in Paris, who are here hosting a big event. Good evening to you.
T-16,
Locally, to the French Guiana sites, to our industrial partners, to ESA and CNES, and to all of you following on the internet. We hope you're enjoying the broadcast. If you're not settled in, please do so. We will cut away, let you listen to the DDO as he calls out the final seconds. Remember, watch out for the cryogenic arms to open. That sets the ball rolling.
À tous les DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
oh no, never mind, sorry.
Unité,
no, that's 8.
Top. Allumage moteur Vulcan.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, no. Mission of the Vulcan. Allumage UAP.
Allumage UAP et top décollage.
Yeah, that shows you how much money I have. 5 months left. It's quite reasonable.
Les paramètres bons sont conformes à l'attendu.
I'm used to going backwards. Oh, clear skies. That's actually very good. That means we might actually get to see the boosters separating.
18:43 local time and right on time. You saw it. Ariane 5 began her mission roaring off from the ground here in French Guiana with a lot of fire. Going up through the thin cloud layer. We had so much rain today, we didn't think we'd have any visibility at all. But look at her go. She's carrying 2 satellites, 2 new telecom satellites, the 2 boosters providing 90% of our thrust right now, propelling the launcher along her trajectory at an ever higher velocity. 775 tons at liftoff. And to get that sort of mass off the ground, you need a lot of push. And you can see, push we have. She's burning 5 tons of fuel every second. That's 2.5 tons of fuel every second in each booster. And the core stage burning another 300 kilos of fuel per second. Into the blue sky she goes, beginning her 5th mission of the year. Ariane 5 now following the program in the onboard computer, which gives all the orders, including stage separations, which we'll soon begin to see in about 20 seconds. We're in the first of 4 flight phases, and we'll describe each in turn and in detail. You can follow Ariane as she heads east across the Atlantic. The first 3 phases are powered, like this one, and the 4th is not. Right now, the first flight phase, the single first stage engine and the 2 boosters are burning. Another about 12 seconds for them. And they will be the first to be extinguished. And you'll hear that from the DDO, but also with the camera work we have, you'll see the flame out there. Should be right about now. That looks like the flame out right there. You are. The 2 boosters falling away on either side. You see that very clearly. And the dot in the middle, that is the core stage Ariane continuing on her way. Very clear shots. Haven't seen this in quite a while.
In March. So yeah, I'm right. That was a while ago. And it's still listed here as planned.
The first flight phase using both cryogenic and storable propellant. Cryogenic in the main stage, the dot that's still burning, and storable propellant in the boosters, who have done their job. There are pros and cons to each. Cryogenic propulsion offers certain advantages.
It's more efficient, basically.
As getting us off the ground, and it is more precise. The DDO has confirmed, of course, separation of the 2 boosters. The boosters will fall away about 500 kilometers from shore into a protected area. Next up, fairing separation, and with this visibility, you'll probably be able to see that as well.
Oh, that's going to be cool. Oh yeah, you can actually see them, yeah.
You can see that perfectly clear. The 2 light blue dots, those are the 2 halves of the fairing falling away from the mothership. We haven't seen clear skies like this in at least a year.
Because,
so this is a wonderful, wonderful sight. Ariane, the main dot in the middle, the dot of light, is the first stage continuing again on her mission. The 2 points of light falling away, those are the halves of the fairing. We don't even need the onboard camera that we have, because this is much better.
Yeah, it is. It's much rarer.
Fairing separation coming at 112 kilometers up, roughly, because we're out of the Earth's atmosphere. If you can take your eyes away from the site in the middle, just briefly look on the bottom left of your screen. We see our altitude 140 kilometers. And on the right, the bottom right, approaching 3 kilometers per second. Now, the speed we need to separate a satellite, if you remember, between 8 and 9 kilometers per second, roughly, because it's roughly the speed of the turning Earth. So when you see the numbers on the bottom of the screen approaching those figures, you'll know we're nearing separation time. Ariane Space is part of Europe's space effort, which is a three-way affair among ESA, the European Space Agency, you saw Charles Biscoe there, the French Space Agency, CNES, and Ariane Space, the third partner. You find them all here, along with the customers. Ariane Space operating the family of launchers and marketing the launch services of the Ariane program, and the Ariane program, I should say. ESA funding new programs, and CNES overseeing coordination of all space-based operation. Guyana Space Center, the world's only dedicated commercial space base, where Ariane Space operating the launcher family, Ariane 5, soon to be Ariane 6, Soyuz and Vega, soon to be the updated Vega C, Vega C4 consolidated. So we are on our way since 5 minutes using Ariane 5, the heavy lift launcher carrying 10 tons tonight. We're going to go to the first of what we hope are several launch replays. And you can relive those vivid pictures and those exciting moments as you saw Ariane come roaring off the pad. Other replays probably coming up. I'll interweave the commentary in between them. We're in the second powered flight phase, the single-engine core stage, still burning. Another minute or so to go before it shuts down. Here's your second replay.
You can see how basically everything seems to darken as
we have at the base here 5 or 6 observation sites, and we have cameras at most of the
I know
sites.
how words work. I can talk.
Named for local birds. There's toucan, there's a colibri. Colibri is French for hummingbird.
Yes, it's also Hungarian for hummingbird. Jesus Christ, the hummingbird.
Here's another replay from the ibis, the red ibis. That's another bird. That's a observation site just back of us here on the hill. Look at that. We were so worried this morning because we had such rain and such cloud cover, and we thought we're going to never see anything. Ariane will disappear after 10 seconds into the clouds. But take a look at that. Wonderful. 7 minutes. We mentioned we separated the fairing now because we're out of the dense layers of the atmosphere, neither friction nor heating, which could disrupt the passengers. We can also get rid of any dead weight. We don't need it. The fairing weighs about 2.5 tons, so we can get rid of it now. Coming up, we're going to be picked up by our downrange tracking station at Natal over the border in Brazil, I believe, right?
That is right. And it looks now Natal has gone yellow, which means we have been picked up by our second tracking station, Natal over the border in Brazil, which tracks the lower stage burnout and separation. So as we were telling you at the start of our broadcast, all of Ariane's trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground. The launcher's functions and vital signs are recorded throughout the entire launch, and they're sent back to a network of stations that keeps constant watch on the health of her systems. In all, information on some 1,500 parameters is collected. And what do the ground stations like Natal do with all this information? Well, customers get immediate data on their spacecraft, which is, of course, very important. Some data are analyzed in real time, and other data are studied after the flight to learn how the vehicle performs on its mission, and a complete analysis is carried out in the weeks following the launch. So you just heard the DDO, yes, talking about Natal in Brazil, which was picking up the signals. So the complete analysis is carried out in the weeks following the launch, and that provides a wealth of technical information for better performance and robustness.
All right. We've had, as you've seen on the screen, the cutoff of the lower stage, the separation of the lower stage, and the ignition of the upper stage. You saw the ignition on the animation. Confirmation from the DDO of those 3 events coming on time at about 168
What were those that were just
168
jettisoned?
kilometers up. Those orders given in about 13 seconds by the onboard computer. Onboard computer, of course, taking over from the ground control. Lower stage falls into the Atlantic off the Gulf of Guinea. So if you've been following, we're now in the third and final powered flight phase. The single upper stage engine is burning now. Will burn until plus 2502, 16 more minutes, roughly. The job of the upper stage takes the satellites to their injection point, positions them for separation, and then releases them. That's its propulsion role. But we mentioned the fourth flight phase, which is not powered, called ballistics phase. She has another role at that time, and we'll have more on that later on. Turning to the passengers, our first look now at T-16.
Hi, I'm Véronique Loisel, and I am T-16 Program Director at Ariane Space. My work mainly consists in interfacing with our customer for all subjects linked to technical matters, but also contractual, communication, financial, insurance, and legal aspects. Our job is to respond at best at our customers' requests. As you know, this mission of VA248 Ariane 5 ECA is to bring into GTO orbit 2 satellites, among which T-16 as the upper spacecraft, manufactured for a leader provider of digital television programs. This spacecraft, weighing about 6,330 kilos, is based on the well-known Eurostar 3000 Airbus DS platform. It is equipped with a hybrid propulsion system, first using chemical propulsion for his orbit raising, and then electrical propulsion for station keeping throughout satellite life. T-16 will be the 130th spacecraft from these manufacturers to be launched by Ariane Space. About 2 weeks ago, on D-9, T-16 was integrated on the CILDA structure, which later encapsulated Eutelsat-7C, the passenger located in the lower position. T-16 will therefore be separated first, followed by Eutelsat-7C. The T-16 satellite will provide high-power broadcast services in Ku and Ka bands. This spacecraft is designed to be flexible and is capable of operating from any one of 5 different orbit slots. It will cover the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the American Virgin Islands. In a few minutes from now, we will witness the separation of T-16 and the start of its 15 years of design life in space.
Very good.
T-16, built by Airbus Defence and Space, can be operated from 5 different orbital slots. That's something you don't see every day. From 99 degrees west to 119 degrees west, according to demand. If you're keeping score, 99.2, 101, 102.8, 110, and 119. Running on hybrid propulsion, using chemical for orbit raising and electrical for station keeping.
Does unit
Co-passenger,
ion thrust?
Eutelsat-7C is an all-electric satellite.
Okay, currently we don't have telemetry
detail
of
on
the
that
vehicle, but it looks the
when
same.
when
That is
a
because it's
Eutelsat's
between
turn. Tonight is a standard
Natal
double
and
launch, 2
Ascension, I believe.
communication satellites, but remember
Present
throughout the
moment.
long
For
career
the moment,
of the
this
Ariane
is normal.
family and Soyuz and Vega, for that
Yeah,
matter,
it's between
Ariane
Natal and
Space
Ascension.
has launched for all types of
I've
missions
never
and
seen
all
this happen
types
that there's
of
actually
orbits.
a dropout
Another
actually
look now
in flight.
for more on
planned.
T-16 and its prime.
Like there was
Airbus.
that one infamous launch where the thing veered off course. There we go, reactivation of Ascension.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station
So
d'ascension.
good, everything is still normal.
a fruitful cooperation between Arianespace and Airbus going back to the time when Arianespace itself was formed back in 1980. T-16 is the 130th Airbus satellite to be launched by the company, and there are another 20 Airbus-built birds in the backlog. Arianespace and Eutelsat also go back a long way. First Arianespace launched for the Paris firm in 1983, Eutelsat-1. Tonight's is the 33rd Eutelsat satellite launched by Arianespace, over half its total fleet. I think Stefan Israel mentioned that. And there are additional 7 in the order book for upcoming missions, including the first commercial order for Ariane 6. You may have heard Europe is developing the successor to Ariane 5, the decision taken by the ESA Ministerial Council 5 years ago. It will be a more market-driven vehicle to meet customer needs and market changes, including, oddly enough, electrical propulsion, of course. Ariane 6 will have shorter and more streamlined launch campaigns. 7 Ariane 6s are already in the backlog. First launch, 2021. At the same time, a new version of the Vega, called the Vega C, being ready to fly her maiden voyage next year. Now, what's interesting is the engine for the Vega C first stage and the Ariane 6 boosters is the same, called the P120C. It's the world's biggest single-block engine. And they started testing its different elements last year, and in January, it was successfully tested in Vega configuration, and coming up in November, they will test it for Ariane 6. A first look now at our second passenger, Eutelsat-7C.
Welcome to the European Spaceport in French Guiana. My name is Beatriz Romero, and I am the Arianespace Program Director in charge of the customer interface and mission preparation for Eutelsat-7C launch services. Eutelsat, one of the world's leading telecommunication operators, has entrusted us for the launch of this satellite, and it will fly in the lower position of the Ariane launcher 248. Eutelsat-7C has been manufactured by Maxar in Palo Alto. Let me introduce you the Eutelsat US Programs Director, Mr. Arlen Casillan. Good afternoon, Arlen.
Good afternoon, Beatrice.
Which is the main mission of the satellite and the market that Eutelsat is targeting?
The satellite will serve markets across Africa, Europe, and Middle East through 49 36 MHz equivalent Ku band transponder. It will be co-located with Eutelsat-7B at 7 degrees, increasing capacity for this dynamic video neighborhood by 19 transponder. Eutelsat-7A will be then relocated as part of the Eutelsat fleet optimization strategy.
Eutelsat-7C is based on the new version, all-electric, of the well-known 1300 platform. What has been the main challenges during the development and the manufacturing of the satellite, and what are the advantages of this all-electric platform?
All-electric satellites provide efficient solutions for satellite operators by reducing launch mass while increasing spacecraft flexibility and performance. Eutelsat has been a pioneer in all-electric platforms since 2015, collaborating with many major satellite suppliers. An electric platform results in a satellite of lower mass and volume that allows Eutelsat to take advantage of favorable launch opportunities, notably launching with the lower position of an Ariane 5, which is a common interest for both Eutelsat and Arianespace.
Thank you very much, Arlen. We have 7 other Eutelsat satellites in our backlog, so we look forward to see you soon for another launch campaign.
Yes, thanks, Beatrice. To conclude, as Eutelsat always says, go Ariane, go Maxar, go Eutelsat-7C.
While you were watching the film, by our third downrange tracking station, as the DDO says, always well on board. That's over in Libreville on the west coast of Africa in Gabon. Arianespace off to a flying start in 2019. We launched with tonight 2 Arianes, 2 Soyuz, and 1 Vega. First launch of the year was in February with 2 telecom satellites. The first Soyuz, 6 satellites for the OneWeb group. The first Vega in March, Prisma for the Italians. And in April, a second Soyuz with 4 more O3B satellites for SES. So the entire Ariane family performing perfectly, orbiting, if I'm counting correctly, 16 satellites in all. Mainly telecoms, except for Prisma. A second film on our second passenger coming up for you now.
It's manufactured in Russia. Based on the flight and all those.
La trajectoire est normale.
The fact that it's all electric is why it's got solar panels that are that big.
Le séquentiel des événements se déroule comme prévu.
Some numbers for you. Tonight is the 71st launch of this version of the Ariane 5, the 310th mission performed by the Ariane family of launchers, and the 104th on an Ariane 5. T-16 and Eutelsat-7C are the 605th and 606th satellites launched by Ariane Space, and they are the 213th and 214th to be launched by an Ariane 5. Before tonight, 374 geostationary satellites, both main and auxiliary payloads, have been orbited by Ariane Space. 4 minutes to go in the upper stage burn, cut off due in 25 minutes. Up next,
Acquisition de la télémesure par la
a look
station de
at
Malindi
Eutelsat's
au
prime
Kenya.
contractor, Maxar.
And during the film, we were
La
picked up
propulsion est
by
nominale et le pilotage
our
est calme.
last downrange tracking station in Malindi in Kenya. It sees upper stage burnout and satellite separations, coming up on extinction of the upper stage engines. And it receives Ariane 5 data the longest for 3 hours after liftoff. Malindi was also the site of the San Marco launch pad, the Italian launch project that functioned between 1964 and 1988. Coming up on upper stage cutoff, we'll hear the DDO call out that announcement.
And you see the nozzle shutting down on the animation. Cutoff occurring right on time. Ariane has now reached her maximum speed. You can see on the lower right, 9.3 kilometers. And you'll now see her begin to slow down. When she separates T-16 in about 2 minutes, her speed will be already down to 9.1 kilometers per second. When she releases the Silda, that's the carrying structure for the second passenger, at plus 29 minutes, she'll be flying at 8.5 kilometers per second. And when she separates Eutelsat-7C at plus 33 minutes and 59 seconds, 8 kilometers per second will be her speed. Now, with the power shut down, not only do you see our speed start to drop, but we're also moving into a new coasting phase, and we'll have more on that in a moment. But for now, it looks like we're up at the CVI where you were recently, right?
Indeed, yes, the CVI, or Quick Look Telemetry Display Control Center. It's on a hill not far from us here at Jupiter, and all the information regarding the launcher comes from the downrange tracking centers I mentioned to you earlier, starting with the Galliot Center here in French Guiana. And I was lucky enough to visit the CVI earlier, where the teams were in the midst of a tracking rehearsal, and they were going through various launch scenarios in order to ensure perfect communication on the day. Each member is responsible for a specific area, from propulsion to control and trajectory. And it was a fascinating moment as I watched the head of the team brief his colleagues ahead of the rehearsal, saying it was important for each member to stick to his own music sheet for the melody to be good. And that was the person you see that right there on the screen. The idea being for the team as a whole to find its rhythm. So right now the CVI team is following all the key flight data coming in and reporting the flight status of the launcher back to the teams here in Jupiter. The announcement you hear being made by the range control manager, or the DDO as he is called, come directly from the CVI.
And we are coming up in less than 30 seconds on confirmation from the DDO on separation of our upper passenger. You see on the left of the composite, the blue and gray are the solar panels folded up. That's due in just about 10 seconds. Always a moment of high concentration. The teams have gone through this before, but it does call for tremendous focus. You don't want to say tense, I guess concentrated, focused, gives you an idea. All eyes on the computer screens, all ears on the phones, awaiting word. There's the scheduled separation on the animation.
Séparation du satellite haut T-16.
And that's what we were waiting for, confirmation from the DDO. And you see Chris Ho looking happy. You will notice that the people in the hall here, after this first good news, successful separation of our first passenger,
Manœuvre d'orientation au
T-16,
profit du système de
you
lancement
notice
double Ariane.
that the people here in Jupiter politely holding their applause because the mission isn't over. We still have to separate our final passenger, Eutelsat-7C. That's coming up in just under 5 minutes, I would say. Before that, we have the Silda separation. The Silda, remember, that's the black bell-shaped structure on the left. Underneath that is Eutelsat. This structure lets us carry a second passenger. You'll hear the DDO call that out. Looking ahead, we have a minute before Silda separation. After separation, the satellites go to GTO. You've heard that term, geostationary transfer orbit. This will be the end of the Ariane mission, but life, of course, just beginning for the passengers. Ariane puts satellites into a transfer orbit, not the final orbit. The satellites get to their final slots under their own power, and that can use up a lot of the satellite's onboard fuel. And that fuel is its lifeline and its lifetime. Tonight's satellites have to live 15 years, remember, which is why it's important to save fuel. And this is done by what they call optimization of the trajectory. That's an Ariane space specialty. Ariane injects the satellites closer to their final orbits, and this is possible due to the extra performance capabilities of the Ariane 5 with its 10-ton capability. There you see on the animation scheduled separation of the Silda.
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane.
And the DDO's confirmation of that. Out over the Indian Ocean. So we are still in the ballistics phase. T-16, take a look at what will be its first maneuvers in space.
Now that T-16 has separated from the launch vehicle, the customer teams will take over in the management of the layup phase. The first important step is expected about 15 minutes after separation, with the first acquired telemetry downlink. Within the next 2 hours, the platform initialization, including solar panel partial deployment, will be performed, followed by a sequence of 4 apogee engine firings, beginning tomorrow and ending 5 days later. It is only after the completion of this phase that the reflectors and the solar panels will be fully deployed. The Earth acquisition is foreseen about 1 week after launch. Then the LEOP team will begin the in-orbit testing phase, first with the platform and then with the payload. Finally, delivery to the customer is expected by the end of summer after a drift phase to its on-station orbital location.
Eutelsat-7C is the first all-electric satellite built by Maxar. All-electric propulsion, very interesting trend in the industry, lets you cut your mass at liftoff by half. And you notice that the Eutelsat weighs about half of the T-16. The trade-off, however, is that it's less efficient for orbit raising and getting to your final destination. Now, in Maxar's case, the satellite will be handed over to Eutelsat in the fourth quarter of the year. That's after 120 days. So what they did was simply order the bird 4 months earlier and solve the problem. We're coming up on upper stage. No, we won't. Not upper stage cutoff. We're coming up on
payload separation.
Our last video, relationship between Ariane Space and Eutelsat.
Never mind.
We are very close to the end of the mission, and we are back with Arlen before the spacecraft separation.
This campaign has been shorter than usual. It benefited from the capability of Maxar to load all the xenon propellant in Palo Alto. With no auxiliary propulsion system, we also avoided hazardous fueling operation in Kourou. We have therefore been able to move directly to a combined operation just after the completion of the standalone test, which Maxar executed very efficiently.
Our work will be almost finished after sending the separation order, but you have a lot to do from this point on. What are the main operations that will follow the separation of the spacecraft from the launch vehicle? And when is planned to arrive to the final orbit and to enter into service?
The first important LEOP operation will involve the deployment of the solar array, followed by the electric thrusters. After initial checks are made, the orbit raising phase is expected to last just under 4 months. The in-orbit test will follow shortly afterwards, aiming for a start of the service by the end of 2019.
We have a minute to go before Eutelsat separation. Remember our mass at liftoff? Can you remember back? 775 tons. What's left of that, do you think, of the composite on the right of your screen? We got the upper stage, empty of its fuel, 4 tons. Vehicle equipment bay, 1 ton. Eutelsat, 3.4 tons. And an adapter, 100 kilos. Roughly 8.5 tons. Less than 10 tons placed in orbit, down from 775 tons to get them there. So most of our weight, you have realized, is fuel. Coming up on separation of Eutelsat tonight, representing years of work for many of these people. Across the base, everyone attentive as we near separation, as they await the DDO's confirmation of separation of their satellite, just like the T-16 people went through the same moments ago. Again, a moment of high concentration. And there's a scheduled separation, waiting for the DDO confirmation.
Séparation du satellite bas E7C.
All right, well, you heard the applause and you see the smiles, and the cigars and the champagne will be forthcoming. Smiles all around. The final good news, Ariane 5 delivered her second passenger Eutelsat-7C over the Indian Ocean. So from the tense minutes just moments ago, you see the change here in Jupiter, all across the space base, and at all the points across the world where people are following the launcher and the successfully deployed satellites. Work is just beginning, or soon will be, at the ground stations. Now, if we've got a minute before our speeches, time for the quiz question. You ready for this?
I'm I'm ready, Josh.
All right, listen up. Can you guess how many kilometers Ariane 5 will fly during her mission tonight? I repeat, once again, Ariane Space Quiz question number 248. How many kilometers will Ariane fly, will she have flown, in all during her mission tonight? You got an idea? If you do, hold on to it. Give you the answer in a moment.
Yes, I met Instagram for
Eutelsat Leops,
T-16 and Eutelsat.
her first two acquisitions in Australia, in Yangara and in Urala, solar array